Kerry and welcome back to Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders. Welcome back to the final episode of 2024. I'm already ahead of myself. 2024. Oh man, I have a show for you. We just came back from Cybersecurity Marketing Con, and we are going to unpack all of the things with our very own Bronwen Hudson. I'm so excited to have her on the show and to be able to explore how it went with her. Before we get there, a little bit about Bronwen, in case you don't know her, but I'm sure you all know her by now. And if you don't, let's fix that effective immediately. Bronwen is a driven, positive thinker, writer, and content creator with a passion for technology. She loves sharing stories and making complex topics accessible to a broad audience. Her career has taken her from sustainability internships to cybersecurity, and from dissertations to social media, and maybe back again. Who knows? In terms of superpowers, she understands complex material quickly. She can make anything exciting and bring people together. So good. Bronwen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I've never heard my bio read aloud by someone else before. It's kind of nice. Like that was new perspective for me. Yeah.
You wrote that. It's like really good.
I knew at some point. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That is a very high level top summary of what you do, but more importantly is how you got there. So what's your story?
Yeah, thanks. So I have a graduate degree in linguistics, and I think that I usually start my story with that kind of situation because it's an indicator that I'm a big old nerd. You know, if you've made it to grad school and you're like in linguistics, yeah, you like words, you like technical material, you're really into research, you're not afraid of it, that kind of stuff. And then shortly after that, I had moved around a lot as a child and a young adult, and just carried on moving around a lot, and then started doing social media content and management, and also technical writing. So blogs, white papers, that kind of stuff in cybersecurity. And that fits so well with me because my real secret deep dark, it's not really deep dark, it's very light. I love to learn. And so coming up in technical writing was such a blessing because, I would get assigned blog topics that I had no idea what they were really about. I would have the chance to go research a topic and then distill it down for a different audience. So, that was how I sort of came up in cybersecurity, learning about all the tech along the way, and then ended up doing sort of more full-time social media management and content creation. And a lot of the marketing skills that I gained along the way were from other aspects of my life. So when I started roller skating in 2020, I was like, I have to record this process somehow. So I started making videos. So that's where I have all of my like video creation knowledge and stuff. And like the back end of Instagram is that's how I learned, was just like self-taught from passion projects. And I'm really happy in cyber. I feel like it's an awesome field to be in, as I'm sure you would agree. Like so many smart people, so many interesting, truly cutting edge pieces of technology, a lot of things that make the headlines. So it feels like a very contemporary field to be in. And I'm always learning, which is exactly what I want to be doing. So yeah, happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Amazing. Yeah, cyber is always changing, so it's trying to stay ahead. I'm very curious around you talked about researching and how important that is to you, and having done it most of your career, all of your career. How has AI changed the way you research? Has it changed the way you research?
Oh my gosh, such an interesting topic. Holy moly. Man, I was just looking at some like meeting notes from a meeting that I was in yesterday, and they were AI generated meeting notes. And I was like, oh my God, these meeting notes are fantastic. Wow. Can't believe it. What great technology. What leaps and bounds. I didn't have to summarize anything. Like, well, amazing. So I want to preface this by saying that like, I also like AI tools, but my majority opinion is kind of in the opposite direction. I think that we have bowled headfirst into a field of the unknown and a lot of the unsighted and unsourced. And I don't know, I have a lot of fears and a lot of reservations about how we're using AI. And especially when it comes to content creation, that's where my opinion really goes off into the deep end. When it comes to research, I think that it's a tough one. I think that if you're feeding resources into an AI of whatever kind, so you know what you've put into it, you can trust more what you get out because you know what you've actually put in. Mm-hmm. With like the mainstream ones, like if you're just asking ChatGPT for 5 stats about the coolest philosophers in the world or something, and then they don't cite their sources, you don't know where that information is coming from. You don't know who's created it. You don't know the types of bias that have been encoded. So I tend not to use a lot of AI tools up front for my research. because I like to trust my own brain as well. Like being able to use critical thinking when you approach AI is really that's the core of the message, isn't it? Like just don't disengage, you know?
Yes. I love that. I mean, when we were growing up, when we were taught to research, right, and double check our sources and cite
Right.
them and all of that, I think that comes back into play. We have to go back to those basics and remember, and not, I think there needs to be another layer of it too that we didn't need before, which is trusting the source.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, like, not just knowing what the source is, but then validating that
Hmm.
source. What actually is that? Who wrote it? When was it written? Being able
Yeah.
to trace your data back. Definitely. Yeah.
It seems like while it saved us time, it may have overcomplicated things a little bit because now we have to do double due diligence to make
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, so if, like for things like meeting notes, I'm like, great, this actually
sure.
saved me time. This was a task I was going to do anyway, and it made it faster. Super in for that. Super in for that, but not the intellectual compromise that people I
Hmm.
think make sometimes. I don't want to do that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm tangenting here, people, but I gotta keep rolling with this AI conversation because we're here now. I will pull us back to center. I pinky swear, but I want to know from a writing standpoint and linguistic standpoint of how you're. I think we both agreed when we were in person. One of the biggest challenges with AI is that nothing's new. So how are you approaching it from a content standpoint with your
Yeah.
brands of like creating content in a way that's saying something new? Because that
Definitely.
feels really hard to do right now.
I totally hear you. Yeah, and so much to dig in here, right? Like because when we talk about thought leadership, we talk about influencers, we talk about like I think those are kind of all overlapping topics when it comes to AI as well. So my personal opinion, and I saw this on LinkedIn, and I really wish I could credit the person who I had originally seen write it down. I'm so sorry. Please tag yourself if this was you. But I saw this sort of like quip basically that said, if you can't be bothered to write it, why should I be bothered to read it?
I did see
And
that
I
too.
really like that. That really resonates with me. Like, if you're someone who's just creating content so that you get views, so that you get more followers, so that you're participating, part of me as a social media manager, like, I get it. Content is hard, but that's not actually the kind of content that I really care about. The content that I really care about comes from your brain because you synthesized your thoughts. You took on the information and you digested it in your own human brain and you come up with new thoughts. That's thought
Yes.
leadership. That's original. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole point is originality there. And so obviously with a lot of like AI models or generative chat materials that we have, even if they can create new stuff, they're pulling from a body of work in a different way that a human brain is. It's often using patterns because that's how those AI models are built. That's like I think the linguistic understanding, which also might come in. I'm just kind of realizing now. I've been part of projects where I was basically creating the model from the linguistic point of view. So, like when you have a sentence and you want to be able to build more sentences like it, you have to be able to understand what the parts of speech are, how they fit together, how the grammar of our language actually works, and then have that sort of usually first, like native speaker kind of intuition about like, oh, that sounds funny, but then be able to explain why it sounds funny. And so when ChatGPT like first came out, and there's so many things on LinkedIn right now about people being like, oh, if you use the rocket, emoji, or if you use an M dash, or if you use the phrase in today's digital landscape, those are all like red flags that your content has come from ChatGPT, which isn't necessarily true, but
I
it
love
is an
the M
indicator.
dash.
I know, me too, 100%, and will use it without observation. But I think the point there is that uh, it is a pattern. It's producing things that are actually often quite recognizable, and because that's how we built the model, that's what we wanted. So overall, not a huge fan
Mm.
because I like human thought. That's
Yeah.
what I like. I want to hear from a person.
I think sort of chuckled off to the side when you said the first part because thought leadership, it's so no duh that you would say
Exactly.
something different. Before I dovetail us off of this into our conversation, I do want to just close out. Oh, Trevor Van Warden, I have to gotta call
What
that
up,
wonderful human
Trevor?
out. Grateful to see you. Um, Oh, better late than never, sir. Better late than never. We appreciate you. Before we dovetail into the heart of our conversation today, I do want to know where you are right now in terms of the challenge you're facing. What feels hard and in your way that, you wish you had, could just pick up and like move over here.
Wow, that is such a good question. Apart from like whatever chest infection I have going on right now, that like if I could just move that to like never, that would be wonderful. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of the content stuff has been very much on my mind because a lot of I think what people are missing out on a little bit is that original thought and thought in general takes time. And we're definitely in a time of our lives where rapidity is valued and being the first is really valued. And I don't know, I would love to reprioritize that, right? I would love to be able to say, like, no, I would so much rather you spend like 6 hours writing a blog with your own brain involved and really saying something that matters to you and something that's important than spending 30 seconds putting in a prompt into ChatGPT and posting it on LinkedIn. No shade. I'm not saying that because of anyone's content. That's a personal kind of approach as well. Like, I wish I had more time to prioritize with, thought leadership. Like this actually feels like an awesome opportunity because we're two humans talking to each other. In some ways, maybe this is thought leadership. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Oh, it totally is. It's why I love doing it because I think it's like one of the only places where you can, and I think when I look back on Cybersecurity Marketing Con, I feel like the panels were probably my favorites
Yeah,
because they felt the most actionable because you could dig deeper and ask questions and go on a journey versus having a presentation delivered to you.
sure.
And while people did a really good job allowing for questions at the end to
Yeah,
make it more actionable, it still felt a little too high level. And so
yeah,
I think it is these conversations that are going to be the thought leadership of the future that help us be able to say things that we we don't hear as often as we probably should because
yeah,
people want the clickbait at the end of the
yeah.
day,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. It does feel unfortunate. That feels like the unfortunate reality. But I also know, like, honestly, especially in the cyber marketing society group, we have a lot of people who don't feel that way. We have a lot of people who really, really care and who want to be creating stuff that's valuable and creative and funny and inclusive. Like, we have a lot of good people in this industry and in this sort of like
True.
sub industry, this niche that we're in. Um, is fabulous. We have a solid group who I think a lot of us feel that way. That we get that strategy exists. We want the how and we want the timeline and we want the stories of how someone else did it so that we can then like piggyback off of those and be creative ourselves. Yeah, totally agree.
You have to be strategic in having sort of an overarching vision and mission of like what you want to accomplish. But like where I'm starting to steer towards and away from is having a plan and more of a list
Ooh,
of what do we need to get done and who's going
yeah,
to do it, and let's just get after it, because I do think we sometimes sit too long in the strategy and then nothing happens and then we've
yeah,
lost time to iterate. So I agree that we should have a vision of where we want to go,
yeah,
but the how, like we are, I feel like the how is getting so lost these days. I feel like everybody on LinkedIn is spouting the strategy of it all, but nobody's talking to everything we're saying. How do you get there? So let's talk about
yeah.
first, before we dive into the founder led piece. I would love to know, like, what were your primary takeaways
Hmm.
from cyber marketing con?
So I loved the panels like you. I actually really appreciated I got to sneak into one of the CMO like track panels.
Yeah.
And that room was packed. Like that was one of the most well attended sessions I was at. And yeah, honestly, very similar thoughts to you. More of a conversation happening on stage, which feels more like an opportunity to listen in on someone's conversation as opposed to listen to
Yes.
the thoughts they've already digested. Totally. More audience participation, that felt great too. And that was like CMOs who were at very different stages in their careers and
Oh, cool.
who were very different personalities as well. And I love just like watching the sort of interaction between them because not only were their strategies different and had they been different, but clearly their types of execution were different as well. They'd worked in startups, they'd worked in big companies, they'd worked in corporate stuff, like they really wide variety of experience. So I loved hearing that. And actually the one
That's a good
that
one.
is really stuck with me is Joel Benge's Nerd Who Talks Good, shout out. The very first session of the conference, it was on Sunday. So it wasn't that there weren't that many people like in the building yet, but it was a fantastic session. Like, so do you know Joel? I feel like you do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So he's such a smart guy to begin with. He's so funny. He's got this, he's walking around with that lunchbox that says human organ on it.
The
Like organ
pictures were
transplant.
fantastic from that. Yeah.
So good. Super engaging speaker. He made it a really engaging workshop. He had people putting post-it notes and stickers. We all had our own index cards. I've still got the prompt cards that he was using for the session. Really just like solid stuff that has been in my brain since that session, which I think is a really good indicator that like it was valuable because I'm still thinking about it. And the session basically is about how to rethink your messaging, whether it's like the big website messaging or the key things that are woven in, finding your company's values and how to actually describe them, getting away from like all of the jargon and actually being clear, like so much valuable stuff. So Joel, I think your session was my favorite. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Yes, to action. What's the one thing you're going to implement today from that? Like what you said, you're sort of rolling around in your brain in terms of taking action on it. What's something you're implementing?
Yeah, so I'm about to start on a website project with my company. We're going to be doing some revamp in 2025, and a lot of it has been just a really helpful both strategy and actionable, like how to implement the strategy. Because the questions that are in his message deck, they allow you to think in a new, refreshing way. And Joel, I gotta hand it to you. Like, I'm not even, if you want to hit me with $50 on Venmo, like, like let me know. But this is not even a push for Joel's stuff. I think it's incredibly valuable. Like, here, let me just read one because now I'm holding it and gesturing wildly. Okay. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so Joel, I'm just gonna like spill all of your secrets. So he's got these cool decks that have heart and a brain and a burger, meaning your gut. So this is a gut card. So you might ask yourself or your team or your CMO or whoever's like working on like reframing this messaging, talking about yourself is weird. What can you get someone else to say about you? So it's like providing a question that allows you to flip your perspective, right? You're thinking about like,
Yes.
instead of like me, what am I saying about my company? What would a customer actually say about me? What do they value about the service that I'm providing? Which is like the most valuable perspective that you could get, right? Is from the person
Yes.
who bought from you, that kind of thing. Anyway,
That's awesome.
loved it. Loved it. Going to be using a
So
lot of that
helpful.
reframing for the website stuff. Yeah,
Thank you, Joel. Thank you for some actionable insight to like make stuff happen.
definitely.
Yes. Yes to that. I really enjoyed the CMO track as well. I
Yeah,
felt like all the personalities up there were totally dynamic and different, and it was really helpful to see how they think. It's so different, right? Because
yeah,
they're thinking more around how to be the bridge between the team and the board of like how to make a
totally.
case for things. And I feel like you don't always get to being on the ground, you don't get to see what they're up against. And I just felt like that insight was so helpful. So helpful.
Definitely.
So I really enjoyed that one
Me
as
too.
well. Let's talk about your panel. You did a thing. You were all
Anything.
fancy. Yeah, you were up on stage. You had a microphone. You were asking some good questions. So, what was your? I obviously know what your panel was about, but for folks listening, give us the lay of the land. What were you? What was the panel about, and how did you come up with the idea for it?
So I think this was the first year at CyberMarketing Con that we had a CEO slash founder like summit day. And I'm actually not sure how many sessions within that track there were on the Wednesday, because I was so focused on my own. But it was a total privilege because being able to have CEOs and founders in the room, it's like that idea of sort of like trickle down, because those are the people who might have budget decisions. They might be the thought leaders, like leaders or influencers themselves. Like that's such a different perspective if they've come from founding the company or being at the top of a company in that kind of hierarchical way. So I've been in social for long enough now that people think for some reason I'm an expert at it. So I think I was just tapped to moderate the panel because I really like LinkedIn. I like talking to people on LinkedIn, and I have strategies for how to build followings, and that, I have the strategy mindset too, but being able to talk to founders about how they've done it, why they've done it, what they get out of it, that's the takeaways there. Like, sure, if you have 25,000 followers, people are like, "Ooh, cool, we'd like to partner with you for something." But the questions of like, why do you have those people? How did you get them in the first place? Do you like talking with them? What is the utility of a LinkedIn following? Are kind of the questions that people who maybe want to found their own company, or they want to build a brand in some capacity. That's the kind of questions that they were asking. So I wanted to be able to ask those founders and CEOs those questions directly. And one of my favorite things about this panel that kind of like came together thanks to Gianna was that it was primarily women on the panel. It was Olivia Rose, who's the founder of the Rose CISO group, Grace Chi, who is the COO and founder at Pulse Dive Cyber, which is like a threat intel feed. Super cool. I can definitely link to these people as well.
Yeah,
Elijah.
let's do that for sure.
Yeah, okay, cool. Jules Okafor, who she didn't end up making it to the panel, which is a huge bummer, but she's a lawyer and is the founder of Revolution Cyber. And then also my boss, Aaron Pritz, who is the CEO and founder of Reveal Risk, which is the company that I'm currently with. And I loved that my boss was the token man on the panel. It was really refreshing to have a panel of like women founders. That's so awesome. In cyber.
Yeah.
Badass. Yeah.
Totally.
Really cool.
It was like, I didn't even realize that until I stepped into the room and saw it. And I was just like, yes. And there was one woman, I don't know which woman it was. She was on the end closest to you. She had so much sass. I just totally enjoyed it. She was talking about, one of the questions you asked was around like what drives them to be on LinkedIn and to go for it. And she totally dropped like the elephant in the room and was like, ego. Feels good, man. What can I tell you?
Like, isn't that refreshing honesty as well? Because that's totally valid. If social media makes you feel good, that's a great reason to be on social media. Totally.
Yes.
Totally.
It helps you keep going too.
Yeah. Right.
Good honor. I always say to founders that they are the first marketers. You are marketing and sales.
Absolutely. Great point. And like often the conversation is about like moving away from founder-led sales. But let's not forget. If you're the founder,
start there.
You're marketing and sales. It's so true.
Just start there. And there's a certain clout with that. Do you find that Trevor always sort of pushes me in this way? He's like, "You're a founder, lead into that." I'm like, "I don't know what that means." And he's like, because he's on the sales side, right? So he's coming at it from a very different perspective. So I have to wonder, like, is it easier to get in the room based on the panel and your experience as having a founder title or a CEO title versus sales title?
Okay, definitely easier to get in the room, right? I mean, any executive like C-suite title going to be easier to get in the room in general. Founder, I feel like carries a little less clout because it doesn't have necessarily an indicator of how successful the thing you founded was or is. But I have a lot of respect for people who are founders, identify as founders, and are kind of leaning into that, because I think it resonates in a little bit of the same way as the previous AI conversation. Like, you did something, you created something, you put a line in the sand and you were like, this is what I'm doing right here. I'm going to put my time and my energy and I'm going to build this thing. Huge respect for anyone doing that, whether it's a podcast or a castle or a company. Like, that's impressive.
All the above.
Yeah, all of the above. Exactly.
All the above. You built a castle and you put a name on it, and then you started a podcast to get people into your castle. It's great.
I'm available for that. I'm pretty sure we could find a place in the UK where there's like an empty castle. We could do that, right?
Absolutely. I'm here for that. In terms of some of the questions you asked, let's run through them real quick, and then I'd love to know some surprises, like what sort of caught you off guard, like what didn't you see come in and you're like, oh, yes to that.
Totally. Yeah. So overall, the panel topic was a chance to be able to talk to CEOs and founders about opportunity creation on social media. And reflecting on that as I was creating my sort of list of questions, I was like, how can I get all the good thoughts in here? It's like, what opportunities are we actually talking about? So that was sort of one of my first questions, was about like what opportunities actually have come through social media. And I realize we're primarily talking about LinkedIn, but I'll say social media because obviously it depends what platform you're on. But
And when you say opportunities, are you talking about sales deals essentially or conversations? What do you mean by opportunities?
yeah, that was my first question to the panelists too. It's
Okay.
like, what are the opportunities that have come up? Is it primarily sales? Is it that you have an audience for your thought leadership and then you're getting more hits on your website? Or are you hiring? Are you like recruiting through LinkedIn? Like there's a lot of types of opportunity that you might be able to pursue. And there was a real variety in the answers as well. So Olivia obviously like bosses out with the ego, and she likes it. So there's an aspect there of building an audience of people who might buy from her or who might use her services, but also find her an inspirational person. They like what she's saying, they like her content. And so the opportunity there is connection. You're finding people who want to listen to you and that you probably want to listen to as well. That's an opportunity. I think in the world of marketing and sales, we're more often talking about, did someone click through on your profile and then go to the white paper that you posted about and then your website and they booked a demo and now they're buying from you?
Where's the pipeline? Where's the
Where's
pipeline,
pipeline?
Bronwen?
Totally. Which is it absolutely exists, right? When we talk about all the things of like, the funnel and multi-touch attribution, social is a huge part of that. And sometimes it's hard to identify because the number of times that someone has like, stalked your LinkedIn or like looked back at that article that you wrote, or like, I don't know, there's so many things that you can do on LinkedIn to find out information about people and their product or the service or whatever it is. So
It's
that's
not creepy at all,
definitely,
I promise.
it's not, well, it can be, I guess I should say, but most of the time it's not. And please don't do it if it's creepy. Um, so yeah, that was the kind of main question, was like, what are the type of opportunities? And my boss, Aaron, I think one of the things that he's really experienced through LinkedIn is both connection and hiring, because that's how you meet good people. You have a conversation, and 4 years later, after you've met in person a couple of times, they're someone you want to hire, or they have someone that they think would be a good fit for you. Like, so finding hiring through connection is totally valid too. And then Grace had a fantastic answer. So Grace is someone who, she's so smart and she's very technical. And a lot of the stuff that she posts about isn't actually necessarily about Pulse Dive and like product updates that they're doing. She more keeps it to basically like market research is how she termed it. So she's keeping her community alive because those are the people that actually care about the work that she does. And hearing it from a person as opposed to a brand page has huge value, right? Like if you're hearing it
Interesting.
from a brand page, then you don't know who's written it. Could have been me, could have been a marketer who doesn't actually know what they're talking
Could have
about.
been AI.
Could have been AI. But when it's coming from the founder's page, it feels so much better because you're like, oh, this person is the literal expert on their own product. They're the one who is telling me the closest to the truth that I can get about what this is. So I loved Grace's approach to that, because identifying LinkedIn as great market research is very intelligent. And then also being honest that the people that she wants to connect with are experts in the field as well. They're people that she can learn from in the same way. And she mentioned Reddit in the same kind of capacity. Like, there are so many great subreddits where excellent high-level conversations, technical conversations are happening that don't have anything to do with sales. They might someday. That's like the marketer and sales hope that
Yes.
you're building pipeline, but the real value is in the technical conversation. So shout out to
I
Grace.
love that.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes. And actually, I mean, I think that that's really what I use LinkedIn for, right? And even the podcast, right? It's not, I, I love building relationships and the connection is wonderful. And it keeps my ear to the ground. I feel like I'm ahead in terms of like
Yeah.
what's coming down the pike from a marketing perspective because I'm hearing and starting to put the pieces together around what people are talking about and what's important to them. So, yes to that. I think it's important. I love this conversation and this question because I think the key takeaway there is that ding, 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 it's not pipeline, right? The
Yeah.
opportunity for social and LinkedIn and founder led is not, it is thought leadership, it's top of funnel, it's
Yeah.
engagement, it's building an audience,
Exactly.
it's not initial attributed pipeline.
Because like of
And
course
it's
it's
so
not, right? Yeah.
No, but it's so hard to make a case for it. I feel like people are really struggling
Mm.
with like how are you going to convince your founder, right, who is a
Yeah,
very busy person outside of marketing and sales to do this thing when they can't see the revenue attributed to it. That's why I thought it was so interesting and awesome for Rose to just be like, it's ego. I love it. I love being out there. I love making connections. I love that people are recognizing me. And
yeah,
that's what for her, like you need that individualized incentive to keep
yeah,
going because it's not sales and pipeline.
totally. Man, that is such a you're so right. And like one of the main conversations I felt was happening kind of like under the radar at CyberMarketing Con, but that we all know it's like an obvious reality is people don't like being sold to. Like that is it's a truth. No one likes being sold to, especially when someone's cold calling you
Mm-hmm.
and kind of, getting in there. And so when you do the opposite, you say something like, I'm not trying to sell you on this. I need help. Or I'm not trying to sell you on this. Here's what I found out. This is like cutting edge threat research that I'm sharing immediately. It gives you fodder and it's definitely a credibility push. Let's be real as
Mm-hmm.
well. And it's also an indicator that you're not just trying to make money. You're trying to help people in the industry. You're trying to build connections. You're trying to do all that other good stuff that I feel like that it's like a particularly salient thing in cyber too, because people are nerdy, people are smart, they can see through that stuff
Mm-hmm.
so quickly.
Yep,
And there's so
it's
many
true.
people who are trying to sell to them directly that they're like more sick of it than ever, probably. Yeah.
Yes, so Trevor saying it. The word "sell" in any sentence is an
Yeah.
automatic reject.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we've burned that bridge. We've burned that bridge. And I think coming up, everybody keeps saying you have to bring value and you have to be helpful. And I feel like we're like, but what does that mean? Because I don't think it's white papers, probably. But you tell me.
Not. Yeah. I mean, well, oh, man. Ooh, I think I have a mixed opinion on that because I feel like a white
Oh,
paper can be really good sometimes.
if if it's done well, right?
It's
And do you
done
gate
well.
it?
Also a great question. Also a great question. I feel like that's a double-edged sword. Um, yeah, wow. So for social, the value creation is always a more than a two-way street because when you have any size of audience, when you speak to your audience, you're hopefully providing different types of value to different people. But more often than not, you're speaking directly to an ICP. I don't really like saying that, but more like that if you're speaking in a technical language, let's like take Grace for example, the types of conversations that she can have are with a group of people who already know what she's talking about or who are interested in knowing more about what she's talking about. But if you provide thought leadership that's more about like sales and marketing or like business led growth, stuff like that, you're talking to a slightly different audience, right? And being aware of that is absolutely going to be a factor in what your opportunity creation is and looks like. You have different goals there. Um, but also, I think I'm getting stuck on the idea of like value creation because I'm like, sorry, what's the opposite of that? It's just blather. It's empty nonsense. So like,
Mm-hmm.
I,
Yeah. I think that's what LinkedIn's filled with these days. So that's why I'm coming back to I love how your
yeah,
founders are. I think that's the beauty of founders versus asking marketing or sales to be the ones out there talking about this stuff because they are the ones who are coming to the table with real insight of how to talk in the industry
yeah,
about how to help their audience because they at one point were the audience. They built
exactly.
the thing because they wanted the thing.
100%, 100%. Were you in Elliot's session about Reddit by any chance?
No, but my business partner was though, and he talked a little bit about it. Did you go to that one?
I was only in it for like 5 minutes because I had something that overlapped, but I was chatting with him a little bit, and I think one of his LinkedIn posts, Elijah, maybe we can find that one too. He basically was like, the main takeaway is like, stop talking and listen, like shut up and listen. And I think that's a really good advice for a ton of people. Like at least do that
Yes.
first. Yeah.
If you don't have anything intentional and deep and thoughtful to say, I feel like we got it. There's so many times I've written a post and then deleted it.
Oh yeah.
I probably have deleted more posts than I've actually written because I was like, this doesn't add any
100%.
value to any of this.
Okay, but I will out myself and say, okay, first of all, same. I definitely delete a lot of drafts. And I think that is a very smart thing to do in general. Like, not every thought needs to make it to the internet. That's good advice for anyone on the internet. But also, I have to out myself and say, man, I post a lot of blather. Man, I'm like here for the lulz as well. Like
But that's not empty. Like we all need some we
levity.
need entertainment in our lives and levity. Absolutely. And when done well and done in a way that create like you've built yourself a little bit of a brand in that way of like how we know you, right? Because we want to look at your stuff because it brings levity to the moment. And so I I think there is moments for that blather, but it's still there's still intentionality behind it in the way that you're doing it. So it might be short and sweet, but it's not empty leadership. It like there was a post today about how somebody upgraded to the latest chat GPT on like the 001 or whatever and
Yeah.
how produced the best thing ever. And I was like, what does that mean? Best thing ever. Like that is so empty. It doesn't tell me anything. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you can put in a longer prompt and it gives you the best thing ever.
Prove it.
And
Totally. And what? Exactly. And what?
yeah, totally doubt that, Trevor. I doubt it was the best thing ever, but it's just that kind of stuff that's out there that's driving me up a wall of
Yeah.
like I appreciate you being in the moment and wanting to post that, but it's okay that if you want to delete that before you
Yeah, right. Yeah. Best thing ever. Wow. The bar seems
gosh.
low. If that's the best thing ever, I hope you have more
Right?
joy in your life.
I think you're onto something in terms of what you're talking about, Bronwen, in terms of writing. Of like, I think if people can do both, where you use ChatGPT to an extent of whether it's thought starters, getting your outline going, doing a bit of research, double checking your resources, obviously,
Yeah,
and then writing it your like the one thing that I can't use ChatGPT to is they can't write for me because it cannot get my tone. It
of course not.
never sounds like me.
Yeah.
And so I tried it a couple times and then I totally gave up.
Yeah.
And so I I think the people who can find the balance of using it for the mundane note taking tools to find and save time to using it as that thought partner, but who have their own thoughts and opinions outside of what's already been created are the ones who are going to win in the long run. And I think
Yeah.
those are going to be really hard people to find in the grand scheme of things. Unfortunately, I feel like they're going to get lost in the sauce. I'm a little worried about that.
I totally agree. Unfortunately, I've read so many stats too, like even before ChatGPT was on the market, that like, you know, this is a made up stat, obviously, but like 95% of the content on the internet is going to be AI generated by 2035 or whatever. Like stats like that, where you're like, that is maybe slightly concerning. Like because to me it's concerning because people get lost in the sauce because the quality is going to lose to quantity. So if
Mm-hmm.
one, because I get it too from the content creation perspective, if you're a team of one like I am, finding ways to scale your content is incredibly important. Trying to find ways to make your product or your service findable is really hard. You have to beat out so much noise, and the belief that you can do so by creating quality original thought leadership, I have it in my heart, but I would definitely take the pushback if someone was like, that's a pipe dream. You're gonna get lost. You're gonna get just beat out by the noise. Like I agree in some ways. We have to have a dual strategy of like SEO and maybe AI content creation and making it easy and scalable for a team of one. And also still relying on our founders, our technical leaders to be able to produce the material as well. Yeah, maybe it's a
Yeah.
two-pronged approach. As per usual, it's not either, it's both. Yeah.
Yes, and let's
Yes.
go back to the founders. I love what you're talking about in terms of the content they need to create. Are they just posting? What is the content they're creating and how are they, breaking through the noise?
Totally. Yeah. So I asked on the panel, I asked the founders basically about what their strategies were or like how they do it, right? Like because beating the blank page is a really hard thing. You might feel like you have a bajillion ideas up here, but no ability to get them out onto paper or into a video or whatever. So Grace, Erin, and Olivia are all writers for sure. A lot of their posts are text driven. Erin has done some video stuff. I think I've seen some videos with Olivia as well. She's a great speaker. And Grace is a fantastic, incredibly well-spoken person as well. But on the reg, a lot of their posts are text based. So I'll speak to Erin because I think it's really funny the way he does it. For some reason, one of the most reliable times I will get him to write things down from his brain is when he's on an airplane. It's like something that he has where it's like all the other weird distractions are gone, and he'll just go. He'll just punch out thousands of words.
Amazing.
And then I'm like, great, you basically just wrote me a white paper. And then I can run with that. Yeah, exactly. Do the editing. We can chop it into posts. We can repackage it for a bajillion different things. And then I feel like I have a direct line into his brain. I've been able to access the information because he's done a big thought dump. And then I, as the marketing lead, as the content creator, can kind of run with that.
Do you give him a prompt or anything? Like, how does he sort of get started? He's on an airplane, or does he just go? Like, is there a connection between like what the market needs and where his thought process is, or does he just know that and he can just knock it out?
Great question. So when I first started, he told me that was like a habit of his, and I was like, awesome, love that for you. And now we have so much more of a rapport and like an ability for me to ask and to give him prompts. So yeah, actually just this past for CyberMarketing Con, he was like, hey, what do you want me to write about on my flight? And I was like, we need some GRC material. Here's like 2 questions you can answer. And sure enough, I now have a document with like 3,000 words of GRC material. It was so great. So yeah, I think, yeah. And like establishing, this is maybe unsolicited advice for other marketers who have the opportunity to work with a CEO or the opportunity to work with someone whose brain they want to access. I think there's a couple ways to do that. Prompts are great, like pinning them down and being like, here, answer these questions for me. Great start. That's for writing, but it's also excellent for video. If you can get a person on video and just even in 5 minutes and 10 minutes, like put a meeting on their calendar, steal 10 minutes and ask them 3 main questions. Steal the transcript, cut the video up into multiple clips. Like it's a great way of generating content, but also like accessing your founder or your top dog's brain. That's really good stuff.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Didn't your boss do a crazy video series with Jen Al? Was that a thing?
Sure was. Yeah, that was actually a video that he and his son wrote a script for. So they did a Gen Alpha slang marketing pitch. It is so cringy in like the best way, because as a millennial, I'm like, oh my God, we used the word skibbity on a cyber marketing panel. I'm deeply uncomfortable with this. Saying skibbity toilet, not knowing what that means. Oh my God, so uncomfortable. I'm sweating immediately. It's terrible. It's such a bad feeling. But it's also, I really enjoyed it. Aaron is someone who's not afraid of using humor in his marketing and like
Clearly.
yeah, totally. Using like working with his kids to create something that's new and fun. And also it's a great video. Like we had a lot of views on it. It was really cool. So yeah, shout out.
Yeah, that's brand building right there. That is.
It is. Yeah.
What's the balance between brand building? I find this really difficult for myself of like how much do I want to build in relation to me versus the brand itself. I think that's a struggle with founders of if I become the thing and people don't actually associate me with the company, then am I losing out there, or is it all good? It's all gravy. It all works together.
That's a excellent question. I think overall it's probably all gravy, but the one thing that I feel is like better than that, or like a better strategy too, is to talk about your people. Because a lot of companies, like once you are thinking about the founder, it's like, oh, that's a single person, or maybe like 2 people or 3 people who have co-founded a thing. And then there's like the product or the service, the company in relation to those. But the company isn't just this abstract thing that's doing its own. It's not just functioning by itself. Yeah, we have employees who are doing the work, who are creating the product, who are working on it, who are producing material as well, working with clients, liaising with the community. Those are your those are your thought
Mhm.
leaders as well. Your employees
Yes.
are the people who actually like who bring it to life, you know? You can have a founder who's just like, waving a flag in the sand and being like, come get my thing, I created it. But the people who are actually implementing it, using it, selling it, whatever it might be, those are your that's your like internal
That's the
community,
bridge.
and that's the bridge.
That's the
Totally.
bridge.
Yep.
Oh, such a good reminder. Such a good reminder. My team is definitely the heart of who we are and what we do, 100%.
Hmm.
I mean, people stay with us for years because we've just built such a wonderful community, and such a good reminder of like why we're here. It is my driver. My people are my driver for
A
sure.
hundred
So
percent.
yes to that.
Yeah.
Ah, uh, final takeaway. Hit me. What was like the one
Ooh,
thing from the panel where you were like, if I'm walking away with nothing, I'm walking away with this?
dang. One big one, huh?
Or underlying or something that hit you?
I think that okay, it's gonna sound a little trite in the beginning, but bear with me. Because when founders go about building an audience, oh, I like that, Joel, a lot. P2P,
Yeah, so
people,
good.
really good. Um, when founders go about creating an audience, so like not for their brand, just for themselves, that's community creation, in my opinion. Wherever you're building it, it's finding people who care about the same thing that you do, who value the way that you're saying it, and who are going to who value the product or service that you're providing. And being able to bring your personality to that is the value of founder-led growth, right? It's like you can bring your personal brand. You can do things like be ego-driven or create Gen Alpha funny marketing videos. You can do those things. You don't have to feel, you know, confined
Corporate.
by brand and by corporate parameters that may or not really be there. But when it's just you and it's your brand, then you can stand up for yourself in various ways, which is I think just another way of saying what Joel just mentioned in the comments. It's people to people. That is the connection that will always be the opportunity, whether you're looking for new friends or you're looking for people who are going to spend $1 million on your service. It's people to people. That's who's signing a check. That's who's sending you a Christmas letter. It's literally people. And so the way to do that is to be yourself on social media.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yes. I love that. So I agree. I had somebody on my show earlier this year who said something very similar. Simon Chu, who I love, he was
Mm,
spot on ages ago. And I think the founder led growth motion is the founder led motion of it all is definitely that aspect. Last question for you, even though I kind of want to end there, but I have a follow up and I can't help myself. How do you transition out of this? So, like, it can't be founder led forever,
true.
or can
So
it?
yeah, or can it? Yeah, I think that founder founder social media profiles will always be valuable. And the founders that I had a chance to talk to on that panel have big audiences already. They've all got over 20,000 followers or something. And as a marketer, when you see those kind of numbers, you're like, ooh, value. I have the audience already. That's a captive group of people that will see these posts when I put them out. Super valuable. But I will say that what I've noticed about brand pages is people are not listening to brand pages nearly as much anymore. The ones that have really stood out are the ones that have managed to jump on the humor or like unhinged train or doing crazy stuff, like everything from like Duolingo to Wendy's, like crazy stuff on TikTok. There's a lot of brand pages that have a lot of craziness and that maybe are promoting that product, but they're not doing it's not nearly the same as the stuff that you would see in cyber. It's not related in the same way. So the brand page, I think, serves as the place where people can go to get value that is like a white paper because they know that this is the kind of stuff that a lot of time has been spent on it, creating something that is of value to practitioners. That's what we're going for there on that one. But with founders, the opportunities that are related to people, whether it's like direct sales or hiring, those are still going to be people to people. So it's like, yes, that will have value forever. Maybe not in the way that you actually have like a direct, that bottom part of the pipeline of the funnel. But there's like, the whole funnel is valuable. Every part of the funnel is valuable. Bother to create stuff for every part of the funnel, you know? Yeah. That's my takeaway.
I love it. I could keep going. I could be here all day with you. I have so many more thoughts and questions, and maybe we just have to have a follow-up show.
That's great. We scratch the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. You keep bringing up the funnel, and I want to like dive in, and we can't. We don't have enough time. That would be a whole show in and of itself. It's going to be great. Something to look forward to for all of us. Before we go, Bronwen, where can people find you? They want to learn more about your company. They want to learn more about you. Where are you at?
Hell yeah. So definitely find me on LinkedIn, Bronwen Hudson, especially if you are a woman or a queer person in cyber and you want some tips on entering the field, succeeding in the field, please slide into my DMs. I'm always available to help people get into here. I have resources for you. I can tell you my story. I can direct you to how to be a freelancer. I've done that too. So please connect with me. And then I'm working for Reveal Risk. We are a cybersecurity boutique cybersecurity consultancy and services company. We do everything from third-party risk management to maturity assessments. Please check it out. I'm so well aligned with all of the service offerings at Reveal Risk. I really believe in what we're doing, and my team is incredible. It has been so easy to talk about Reveal Risk in this kind of setting, and I don't feel like I'm hawking a product because my team is incredibly talented and smart people. So if you need those services, please come check us out. Thanks.
So good. So good. Before we go, last question for you. It's the end of the year. We're on the brink of a new year, 2025. What's currently bringing you joy, or what are you looking forward to that's going to bring you joy?
Oh man, 1,000 million bajillion things. Everything from continuing with my job. I play roller derby. I'm looking forward to the 2025 season. It's going to be fantastic. I have to admit, I'm already looking forward to spring. I'm one of those people who's like, if we could just skip through February and March, I would just slow down with that. January can stay because we can do a little bit of it, but February and March we'll just bypass. So a new summer and spring season. And then I think I'll be in the UK in May. For a friend's wedding. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Maybe we can chat further.
Oh, yes. That is happening.
Okay, cool.
That is 100% happening. Maybe we'll do the show live. No, that would be, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I now have great joy and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, amazing. Cute.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful to you, Bronwen. Thank you for closing out 2024 with me. So great to meet you in person, and I get to do it again in May, which I'm really looking forward to.
Book me in.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you so much. Thank you to our audience, our listeners. I appreciate you for hanging out with us in 2024. Clearly, we got things coming for 2025. This is a preview. Get ready. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. This episode is brought to you by MKG Marketing, the digital marketing agency that helps brands get found via SEO and digital ads. And if you'd like to be a guest, DM me. I'd love to have you. And music mix and mastering done by my tea time sidekick, Elijah Drown. Thank you all so much. See you next year.